Everybody, and welcome to Forever Rugby on Forever Sports. The Springbok team for this weekend has been announced. In fact, the press conference is currently going on, and we can actually tell you a little bit about what's been asked and what's been said, and sort of the explanations given for the side that has in fact been named by Jacques Nienaber. Now, quite a number of issues to really get through. Both in terms of the team, as well as a couple of issues regarding Rusty Rasmus, who this weekend will be part of the coaching staff in the box and stuff like that. That was confirmed by Jacques Nienaber, but no official verdict just yet in terms of what's going on. In fact, we're probably going to put a video out about it just after this. But an interesting selection, very, very interesting. I think a lot of it's, as usual, I think, you look at the 23, you probably think about 21 of them are pretty standard and pretty sort of much expected. The big sort of glaring absentee continues to be APHELELE, FASSI, who was pretty much the entire sort of subject of the entire press conference. Jacques now being asked, why isn't he being selected? What's going on there? And judging from the responses, definitely not a case of not being good enough or not being in the plans. I think from what we sort of hear from the press conference, it does sound like APHELELE FASSI is at this stage the long-term sort of fullback succession plan to Willie le Roux. But at the end of the day, it all comes down to who you need to do a job for every single game, and I think that the Jesse Creel selection, we're gonna put the team up now, we'll talk a little about it. It's probably frustrating for a lot of people, so I don't think they would have liked to see APHELELE FASSI. But I also think, given the opposition, given the record we have, you can kind of understand why defensively it might have been a safer option to go to the JC Creel. Before you sort of put the team on the screen, though, please start getting in the comments. You're putting in the poll. Are you happy with the 23? Simple yes or no. You can go in and jump on there and let me know what you think. But let me put the team on the screen, and we can chat about it. So this is how the team looks for tomorrow. Right, now let's go through it. So front row, Oxenchair, Bongi Mbonambi, Trevor Nyakane. We knew this, didn't we? It was not, as soon as Francois Malherbe was ruled out, this is your going to be 23. I'm very happy with that front three. I think that it's a very, very solid front three. I think that if you look at it, there's a whole thing about if you're looking at the height and stuff like that, they are all quite similar, sort of height-wise, stuff like that. So whether sort of the small sort of details, I think Trevor Nyakane is currently in the form of his life. He's making scrummaging look very, very easy. Oxenchair has retaken life back in the Springbok jersey like a duck to water, looking very comfortable. And Bongi Mbonambi was probably a little bit off the pace against British and Irish Lions in the early stage of the Rugby Championship. We've sort of come to expect very high standards from our side, and I think that Bongi Mbonambi maybe wasn't hitting those straps, but looked very good in the last stage of the Rugby Championship. And I think to have Bongi Mbonambi and Malcolm Marx, those two as a combination, are so useful. And as we know, they play the same amount of game time, so I really don't mind. But I don't really get the whole when people sit there saying Malcolm Marx has to start. Well, why does he have to start? He's still getting the 40 minutes that he would get if he starts. And Bongi Mbonambi is not exactly a liability on the field, so I think those two work very well. Even Etzebeth, Lua Diaga. It's tough when you think that you've left out Franco Moss, who's on the bench, which I think is fine. But Franco Moster was probably one of our top 3 best performers against the British and Irish Lions, and it kind of just shows you the depth we've got at lock. That he doesn't make the side. The loose trio, Siya Kolisi, Kwagga Smith, Dwayne, and look, if the loose trio beats the All Blacks, they've got the blessing, haven't they? I'm already seeing Kwagga Smith too small. And how much more do you need to watch of him? How many more times does he need to beat the All Blacks, and does he need to put in big performances before we start respecting Kwagga Smith? He's beaten the All Blacks twice, by the way, in like the 11 tests that he's gotten. And I don't understand how you watched those 2 Rugby Championship games when he started. In fact, I don't know how you've watched him this year, and we continue to come back to this too small thing. It's ludicrous. Also, the confirmation Mark of a start, it's got a concussion. That's why he's not on the bench. Well, we don't know if he would have been picked on the bench, but I missed some of the press conference, so that could have been confirmed. But there we go. Thanks, Carly, for clearing that up. Herschel Yankee's getting a start. I enjoy that, actually. I enjoy that. I think and that's what Jacques Nienaber was just saying. He says we know what Kobus Reinach brings. He did say that very much Rugby 2023, the cap is on. We are looking towards Rugby 2023. We are looking at what's going to happen in there. And so it is a case of trying to win every game while still trying to sort of give people opportunities. So it's quite a tricky sort of balance, isn't it, in terms of making sure that every weekend you're putting out the best 23 you can while still thinking, how can we give these guys a bit of a run? And I think if you look at the three big selections, which are Herschel Yankees, JC Creel, Damian Willemse, they're all players who haven't had game time this year. I mean, if I were to go and try and find Herschel Yankees' playing time in the box, I don't think I'd be very surprised if he had more than, sort of 100, 120 minutes, despite having played quite a lot of rugby this year. So much like the JC Creel selection, here we go. So this is Herschel Yankees for South Africa. Oh, this is great. On your Rugby Pass, can you sort your rubbish out? It literally hasn't having no minutes. I'll check out the Rugby Pass app. But this one really interesting. I'll be interested to sort of see how many minutes he's actually played, despite having been on the bench a lot this year. So I quite like that Herschel Yankee selection. Andre Pollard is he's the starting flower, isn't he? And I think he's, if you're going to back him, then back him. But this is a game that will suit Pollard. It's definitely going to be a kicking game. It's definitely going to be very physical. It's definitely going to be quite a tactical sort of game. I mean, let's be honest, Wales are very, very direct. They're very structured. Not incredibly open and sort of free-flowing. So, in that sort of sense, he's the right choice. I think that there's definitely an argument to see more of Alton Danke so far, based on the performances we saw so far in the Springbok jersey. But yeah, apart from that, Maxwell Pimpy at the 11 is standard. David Lekanya very, very standard. And then you got Jesse Creel, Damian Willemse. Now, I don't mind. I mean, I said that yesterday when I said what I want to see, I said we could see FASSI at 14 and then Velu at 15. But the biggest sort of question mark with FASSI at 14, or even if you shifted Maxwell Pimpy to 14, is playing on the right wing. You've got a very, very big defensive duty to do. And JC Creel, and they were talking about the fact, was supposed to start more at 14 a couple of years ago before Lekanya broke his arm and ended up playing a lot more at 13. But Jacques Nienaber and Rassie Rasmus have wanted to sort of try out JC Creel more at 14. And I think defensively, he is a much better player defensively than APHELELE FASSI. So it's a very safe option to go with JC Creel. No APHELELE FASSI, visa issues. He's not even currently with the squad. I'm just going to assume it's an issue, unfortunately. It's kind of the reality, isn't it, of what we sort of face over here. But yeah, it's frustrating not to see them. And then Damian Willemse at 50, I quite like it, to be honest. I think everybody's been talking about the fact that Velu is not in a particularly good space, not in particularly good form, and calling for the change. People wanted to see APHELELE FASSI, but Damian Willemse and Jacques Nienaber was talking about it. He's been in the box squad for about 3 years, 2018, 19, 20. I mean, he's been almost 4 years now. And I think this is his fourth start in the Springbok jersey. So that's quite an interesting sort of thing. The fact that you really have to work really, really hard to get your caps. You have to work really hard to get into that starting lineup. APHELELE FASSI has already got 2 starts to his name. Damian Willemse has been in the squad 3 more years than him, and this is just his 4th or 5th start. So he has been overdue an opportunity. Off the bench, Malcolm Mark, Stephen Ketzoff, Vincent Clark. We know that Franco Mostert, standard. Jasper Wiese, no Malcolm starting there, so that was probably a pretty easy pick there. Kobus Reinach was expected. Alton Yankees expected. And Frans Steyn, what more do you want? I think it's a pretty straightforward side. The only thing is, I think people were talking about is APHELELE FASSI, and there is definitely an argument for it. What I will say is we haven't seen a lot of JC Creel, so let's see it. I don't really like it. I think it's I think there are better options there, but the better option is currently in South Africa. So what must we do? What must we do? But yeah, let's see what the comments are saying, stuff like that. Let me know what your opinions are on the side. Yes, my mouth has got a concussion. Master makes mistakes in vital moments. He isn't composed enough. Not really. I mean, you can't sit there and saying after he was so good in the British and Irish Lions series that because you knocked the ball on the next time the one thing, then he makes mistakes at crucial moments. I mean, we're talking about one of the most consistent performances throughout the entire year. I mean, he was absolutely phenomenal against the British and Irish Lions. Shifted to the flank and looked very comfortable there. Let's not microanalyze people. Yankees deserves the start. I hope you'll see him next weekend. I think that when against Scotland, when it's a bit more open, I think Alton Yankees and Hershey Yankees, a combination will be very interesting. Much more options in Kwaka's plays. Again, I don't understand. Have you not watched this year? Have we not? We're not seen how much value Kwaka Smith brings to the side. All the analysts, all the big, the people that the people who are really useful voices on the game, all rate him and all talk about how, despite his size, how useful and how incredibly important he is for the Springboks. So I just don't understand why we can't see that. He is so important in terms of a scramble defense. His mobility makes up for his size. Maybe he might not run over a player, but he will get to tackles where other players won't. He'll hit more rucks than PSF Toy ever will, simply because of the mobility-wise. So you don't have a line option in him. You don't have this massive hulky ball carrier, and you don't have this huge physical presence on defense. You do have someone who's got a scramble defense. You do have someone who can get into a gap. You've got someone that can help out with a bit of playmaking, and you've got someone that's going to do a lot of the hard jobs and get around the park. It's always about balance at the end of the day. And that's why, if Jasper Wiese plays, for example, you lose certain aspects. For example, if we're looking at number 8s, if Kwaka Smith plays 8th man compared to Jasper Wiese, they themselves have got different attributes compared to Dwayne Vermeulen, who suddenly becomes like a line option, for example. So it's all about having roles. And this is what Jacques Nienaber's talked about, the fact, and even Kwaka Smith talked about it as well. We don't really have a 6, 7, 8 in the traditional sense. We don't necessarily have an open side, blind side, 8th man in terms of, here's your job description, this is what you will do. He says, and that depends on the number in your jersey. He says that, within the loose trio, they've all got roles and they all say, right, your job is to do this. And he says the number on the back doesn't actually make much of a difference. They all just fulfill certain roles. They have to do certain jobs on the park throughout the game. And I think that he does that job very, very well. Ricardo says Damien Bliss should play 12, seeing that we have too much fullbacks, FASSI and Galant. Well, Galant's not even part of the squad. I would like to see Damien at 12, a bit more, but I think we probably need to see a bit more at a local level until we, I know we've seen him slightly for the Springboks, and I enjoy him at 12. But yeah, man, SA batting is so bad. From what I've seen, that we need like 28 from 58, so I don't think it's that bad. We're trying to chase net run rates. I think if people are having a dip, then I'm not too worried about it. But I see Timber's going along nicely, and Rusty's there. I will be fine. Could have brought Green into the squad to learn again to the setup. Yeah, I think if Spoon Corsi doesn't manage to make it, and if there is the issue there, then I think Tyron Green is a very, very intelligent option. Him or Galant would be very easy good additions. Pollard 12 and Creel 13 second half. We could see that as well. I think a lot of people have been calling to see that Alton Pollard 10-12 axis, especially if you've got a fast stay on Damien Willems. Just in terms of options and kicking games, I think that would be a really, really interesting idea. But having said that, Damien Jalendi is also, it's just so class. And so it's difficult to sort of sit there saying, lots of people are saying that, they want to see Alton playing because Pollard's not playing particularly well far half, therefore shifting to inside centre. But how are you then dropping Damien Jalendi, who's been so good? But I would like to see it. I love how you think Kwaka is good. I love how you disagree with so many people who know far more about the game than you or I. Yeah, he beat the All Blacks. So when you've beaten the All Blacks, I suppose you get to come in and tell them he's shit. But until then, yeah. Else says, Jessica Creel is one of the best defenses, better than the Corsi. No, yeah. I think he's very good defense to be attack. I'm saying the option we want at 14 right now isn't Corsi. It is, but he's not there. So I don't mind Jessica Creel at 14. I think defensively he's very solid. So it's a very it's a pick that had to happen, isn't it? I mean, let's be honest. We know that Wales are a very tough and physical side. We know that defensively we will be tested. We will do a lot of defending this weekend. So having someone like a Jesse Creel, who is a very good defender, is a very, very easy pick to make. Chris Davis is not the end of the world, bro. Still 2 years to World Cup. There's plenty of time. But I mean, we are still looking at our depth. By playing Jesse Creel, we're still looking at our depth, just making sure that he still should be there. He can maybe cover 13 and wing if he plays well. Damian Willemse is getting his 4th or 5th start. That is building depth. Hershey Yankee's getting a start. That is still building depth. Just because APHELELE FASSI is not starting doesn't mean, or the fact that like a Salman Russ not getting a test cap, it doesn't mean that we're not building depth. Oxen Chair's only got about 5 test caps. I mean, let's look at the test cap, shall we? And it sort of shows you that there are some players who are still very new at this level. Oxen Chair's got 6 caps under his belt. Quacker Smith got 16. Jasper's coming off the bench has got 8. Willemse has got 14 caps, but only a couple of starts. So there is still Hershey Young's got 18 caps. There is still a certain amount of building depth. You don't have to hand out 14 debuts every single weekend to build depth and prepare for the future. At the end of the day, we will be taking, a 36 or 30, or even like 30, sort of 2, 3, 4 man squad, or whatever it is you take to the World Cup eventually. Right now, the core of it is the squad that we got at the moment. There will only be maybe 2 or 3 additions to it by the 2023 World Cup. So you then need to use the squad itself, and you've got to make sure the Yankees is playing rugby. You've got to make sure that Creel's playing rugby, Willemse is playing rugby. Everyone's playing rugby. Everybody needs to play rugby within the squad. We can't just, sit there saying, well, why aren't we bringing all these other players into the squad and playing them when there are players who've been part of the squad the entire year that haven't really played much. Albie says the Box need a fetcher or shorter Lucy. We haven't had one since Brousseau. Well, Kwak has a fetcher. Dwayne Vermeulen fetches as well. Trevor Newcombe is very good on the ground, and Stephen Kitzel comes off the bench. Look, Marco Verstappen, I think probably does make the bench if he's fit. I think I'll take him ahead of Jasper Wiese. And again, how do we not have to? We've had an entire documentary, which had an entire episode dedicated to the concept of the bomb squad, and yet people still can't sometimes always understand that being on the bench does not mean that you're a worse player than the person that starts, that it is a 23-man game these days. And if Marco Verstappen starts on the bench and gets 35 minutes, that's 35 minutes. Not every single player has to get an hour, 65 minutes, 70 minutes, to contribute. Obviously, Yankees Polar combo has served as worked well for us. It takes 50 men to beat the All Blacks, so don't think you all. Quack Smith started fullback whenever he came. Bevan Williams, I don't even know what you're on about. To be honest, I don't know what you're on about. I was definitely saying that Quacker Smith single-handedly beat the All Blacks by himself. The other 14 men could sit down and they would have won. It's definitely exactly what I'm saying. Yankees 10.12. Why do you think Jan Zerf 10 has not been in the box setup since 2017? I don't know. I think Jesse Creel is what I'm saying. I think it's a very big tour for Jesse Creel because there are a lot of centers who are knocking down the door. Lots of people calling for Andre Estes and Jan Serfontein, somebody who's floating around. I want to see the Similani is very much one of the front for the future. I would like to see more of Serfontein. I think there is certainly a certain degree of some players don't get picked. And I do wonder, in terms of players from overseas, which players sort of do get brought back and whether if he was playing in South Africa, he does become part of the Springboks setup. Obviously, a number of players who have been called up to the Springboks setup from the Premiership and the top 14, your Rand Elstats, your Ches and Colbys, I suppose, are playing over there. I don't know what the issue with Jan Serfontein is. I'm a big fan of him. I think that I'd probably prefer to have him there than Jesse Creel. But let's see what Jesse Creel can do this weekend. See if he can sort of prove. I think we also, forget Jesse Creel had a couple of very, very good years for the Springboks. Can he get back to that? Jasper Wiese discipline is an issue. Gives yellow cards too easy. It is the biggest issue with him. I think it's his discipline as soft skills. If he can sort that out, I think he's a hell of a player. Most of our players should be around 30 caps for us to have enough experience for the World Cup. Give all the new starts the benefit of the doubt. They know what is needed of them. Exactly. I don't know if I like Wiese, our second pick at number 8. Who would replace him, though? Well, within the squad, if you talk to Vermeulen, then Quacker Smith's the other 8 option. Outside the squad, though, you've got Evan Lewis coming through. You've got Pesky Buthelezi coming through. I tell you, he's playing some pretty flippant storming rugby over there. Jean Augustus, who I was been saying for a long time, is definitely Springbok material written all over him. Absolute monster of a human being. And looks like he's going to look. I think he's going to be pretty good in the Premiership, and I wouldn't be surprised if you see him on the radar pretty soon as well. This is the worst team we could choose. While we have many more talented players who play in RSA and Overboard, no, it's definitely the worst team we could have chosen. I agree. Oxenchair, Bongi, Manambu, Chevin, Yukani are horrible rugby players. Even Etzebeth has accidentally found his way to 95 caps. Luat Diago is a pretty terrible line option. Sia Khaleesi is horrendous. We all know Kwaka Smith's too small. Dwayne Vermeulen's too old. Herschel Yankees is flashing the pad. Andre Pods or 4. Makazola Mapimpi hasn't been scoring pretty much a try per game his entire career. Damien Delinda Lucanio definitely did not take apart the British and Irish Lions. Who else have we got here? Malcolm Marx is definitely horrendous. Kitsoff Vincent Koch shouldn't be there at all. Franco Mostert, what a terrible player he is as well. No, 100% I agree. This is definitely the worst 23 we could have picked in the squad. I don't know what you're on about. To be perfectly honest, you know what? If you want to be that miserable, then please don't celebrate we win, because come now. Come now. I mean, let's be honest. What changes will we make here? Literally, if APHELELE FASSI is starting at 14, I don't think anybody is complaining about this side. Maybe Markov is starting for Jasper Wiese. But yeah, I think it's a very solid team. Andy Nelson, Andre Estes is really good and strong. Look how he bumped up in a polar. I was talking about with Kwaka, we have that shorter fetcher. We have that. Yeah, 100%. I'm with you, Albie. Okay, cool. Andre says for long-term center option. Look, if he keeps knocking the ball down, then you know that's what you got to do, I suppose. If you're not part of the squad, you got to keep putting in performances every single week and make sure that you can't be left out. Dagan says solid team for first test up north. Rather play it safe. Chalky is doing well for Northampton. What do you think of a B team tournament? I wouldn't necessarily say a tournament, but it'll be quite cool to see like series. You know, like let's get French Barbarians, SAA. You know, Maori All Blacks. Let's get those people playing in series and stuff like that. Because then we can have Evan Lewis storming at 8th man. We can have Tyron Green flying in and around at fullback. And I want to see a similarity at the centers. We can have Carly Sardi and you know the like and people like Joseph Dwyer, for example, maybe even getting more opportunity and stuff like that. We've been talking about this all year. We want STA games. We want to see a second string side which can then feed into the Springboks. Because unfortunately, the Springbok squad can only be, I think it's like 35 or 34 players. And if you go through that squad, very few players there, which you would really leave out. Augustus ball carriers was good this weekend. Why hasn't John Augustus not been given a chance yet? He was a monster. Even they say, well, look, I think, you know, timing as well is incredibly important for in sport. You've got to make sure you're playing well at the right time. And unfortunately for Augustus, I think injuries and not playing enough at the time when Dwayne Vermeulen was suddenly out probably counted against him. I think that had he been performing like he has in the first couple of rounds of the Premiership in sort of June, July, which obviously is not when the Premiership happens, but had he been doing that, you know, he probably could have skipped ahead of Jasper Wiese. But Jasper Wiese came into good form at the right time. Then Dwayne Vermeulen gets injured. Jasper Wiese gets a couple of starts. He even gets a man in the match performance. All of a sudden, he's, you know, quite comfortable within the squad. Timing is an incredibly important part of professional sport. You know, it's like, you know, this person gets injured at this time. I mean, look, there are people who have played in World Cup finals. You weren't even in the squad to begin with. So it's also an interesting time. I think, you know, there's definitely Dwayne Vermeulen at this stage has signed to play until 2023. I think we've got some tremendous talented 8th man. I mean, Pepsi Buthelezi, Evan Lewis, and Jono Augustus are all 3 8th men who I don't think would look out of place at all in the Springbok setup. Albert Lowe could even also join that list, depending on where he wants to play. But B team World Cup, if All Blacks can beat them that easy, we should. If we lose, we will lose all 3. Look, it will be a different Welsh squad. I don't know what injuries wise they're getting back, but they obviously are getting quite a few players back from that play in the Premiership, that play in top 14 and stuff like that. So it won't quite be the same side that took on New Zealand this weekend. But I don't think it'll be easy. Put it that way. We've got a terrible record in Cardiff as well, so it will be a big ask. How many South Africans play for other countries? Quite a few. Obviously, everybody's talking about the Scott box. But So you've got there's players all about. But at the end of the day, we do export rugby players like flipping. I mean, it's probably. I mean, it's one of our biggest exports, isn't it? You know, we expect. I think we've got the most fish rugby players all over the world. And I think a lot of people read far too much into it. To be honest, I think that it's with globalism and stuff. It's a global game. It's a global world we live in. At the end of the day, people have got roots everywhere, and I don't think we need to be upset about Dylan Richardson playing for Scotland. I don't think we need to be upset. Dylan van der Merwe didn't really make much of a name for himself in South Africa. Goes and plays for Scotland. So there are a lot of people out there, and I think that. But I also think that we need to be very, very careful when it comes to players playing for other countries, and why they're playing for other countries. You know, like a CJ Stander, you know, was told that he wasn't really going to make it down here, and he goes and makes it. Fantastic. But it also is far too easy to sit there and try and make up excuses of transformations, the reason he didn't make it down here, or this and that. Some people just don't make it. Some people develop as players when they go overseas, and that's fine. But yeah, so never mind. We won the cricket game against Bangladesh easy. What was the final score? I saw that we need like 20 odd runs, so our net run rate is looking pretty good. We still need the runs here, but Rassi made 22, Timber's there on 30, solid stuff. Should be all good there. Lisa just been a shocking. Butler is definitely going to be in the box future plans. Pepsi looks more like a 6 to me, similar player to Khaleesi. Well, it will be interesting to sort of see what will happen when like Sika Mozenoche, for example, is back in the plans, and where they put Pepsi, where they put Sia, where they put Sika Mozenoche, Richardson and James Fenton. They got so many loose forwards to the Sharks. I'm very interested to see how they will line up eventually when they get everybody back. As Creel fast, look, the man's not slow. I mean, he's not Spirin Corsi, but very few people are Spirin Corsi pace. I think he's fast enough to be in the wing. He'll be one of the faster ones in the squad. Creel's pace with no winger's pace. Is Creel fast enough to catch Reese Zammit? Well, Reese Zammit will probably be on the other wing, so I don't think that'll be an issue. It's probably be Josh Adams that he's up against. Not that that's any flipping easier, is it? Box 2 by 5. Creel plays 14, Zammit plays 4. They don't match up. Imagine the last big winner we had was Peterson. That's how much we don't value size on the outside. Well, look, I mean, Spirin Corsi is not small. Let's not pretend that Spirin Corsi. I mean, he's a big man, this Spirin Corsi. But I get what you're saying in terms of the frame. I mean, Spirin Corsi is what, almost 100 odd kgs. Jesse Creel must be pretty similar. Yeah, pretty much of a muchness weight wise, height wise. Yeah. Would love to see Ches and Colby at 15 for the box. No, Creel's not as much as fast winger, but he's no slouch. Of course, he's the fast Springbok at the moment, so we're not. We don't have other players that fast. Yeah, as I said, I mean, Spirin Corsi is flipping quick. Chesn's probably got the fastest acceleration. Spirin Corsi probably the fastest in the squad. After that, I'll be interested to see a race with my pimps and APHELELE, and you know, obviously Ox in the first 10 meters is pretty lethal. Curtly Orange, Samadosh Tumwe. In terms of players in the squad, or we're talking about fast players. Oh, you know, we got load shedding later. Oh, goodness me. The country we live in, But yeah, what are your thoughts? We won't go for too much longer. It'll still be cool. And now my chair's just falling apart here. We will be back more for this sort of show. Unfortunately, I'm working pretty much night shifts all the time, which means I start work at 4 and I finish at midnight. So those sort of the evening news shows are becoming very tricky to do. So we are looking at launching a lunchtime show, probably starting at sort of 1 o'clock at South African Standard Time. You know, so a little bit earlier than this. So it'd be cool for you guys to join in. Obviously, I know it's not ideal because obviously people still work stuff like that, but unfortunately, kind of is what it is. And until such time as I can decide where I work and when I work, it's just how we're going to have to make things happen. So we'll probably be live tomorrow for about a lunchtime show. You actually might launch it tomorrow. Maybe we'll do that. Anyway, I'll put out a poll to see what you guys thought, and 68% of people of the 78 votes are happy with the side, which is interesting. Good to see that most people agree. You see a lot of people aren't. I think the FASSI will be the big one. Sort of the reason why people aren't necessarily particularly faster. I think it's faster than Spoo. That's interesting. Over 100 meters in terms of top speed, because interesting. Look, it's South Africa. We're always going to have absolute ridiculous pace out there. The front row should be the fastest over 10 meter. I think. I tell you, when you flip an oxen chair, I wouldn't take him on in a 10 meter sprint. Momentum is a big thing there. Who would be the next big number 10 in SA after Pollard and Yankees? A couple coming through. There's obviously Kate Volato, who's currently injured. Jordan Henderson is currently injured. And Ngomazulu from the Western Province had a very, very nice under-20 campaign. Obviously, Buda Chamberlain is playing some pretty nice rugby at the moment. There are a couple of options. So we'll probably start seeing that in the next couple of years. Louis says the team is good except that Colby and Peter Steph for the toy. Oh, look, we are missing a couple of injuries. France Maherb is a big injury to not have either. So I think it's pretty much as strong as we can go. I like Creel when you're still playing at fullback. Maybe we'll help. That was when I really liked Creel. I must admit, I was a massive fan of Creel at fullback. That's when he started sort of coming through, and I really enjoyed him there. XD, great show. Peter, thank you for jumping on. Top speed and training and game speed. Well, it's interesting. Well, there we go. But my pimps is rapid. There's just so much pace in this flipping side. Renwick is still pretty quick. Yeah, we can always talk about the fact his dad is a sprinter as well. I reckon Creel will have a big game against Wales. Sasha is an X-factor fly half. You know what it is? I think we're going to see a whole different generation of fly halves coming through, because I think at the end of the day, these players are now growing up seeing X-factor fly halves flourish. You're seeing your Bowden Barretts, your Richie Morangas, your Finn Russells, your now like a Marcus Smith coming through, for example. And I think they want to play like that. I think, gone are the days where I think a schoolboy fly half and wants to sort of necessarily be really big and physical and stuff like that. They want to be doing the out the back of the hand passes and being creative and cross kicks and stuff like that. So I think we'll see a far more attacking fly half coming through in the next couple of years. We're already sort of seeing it in Ngomazulu and Hendrickson and Kate Volta as well. Players who like to attack. Wait for Schroeder to get his place in Stormers. Smith is fast. Do you think they'll go for the kicking game or play a mixed both like the final? I think we will kick. I think that weather-wise, Saturday it's 13 degrees. Jesus, 13 degrees and rainy. So I think it's going to be wet at the end of the day, wet and cold. So that's right up our alley to just kick the ball and try and then get win possession back. So I don't think we'll change much. Our flyers coming through will be more like Aus New Zealand flyers, 100%. New flyers play more like Alton than like Pod. Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. I think, we are seeing a new generation coming through. And it's an exciting generation. But it's not just flyer halves. We are not, something like an Arceus Neymar, and you look at the size of him and he brings in an offload game. I think generally, hopefully, I think we will see a much better, a more skilled generation coming through. Gone are the days where France Malherbe is becoming a bit of an anomaly, just a big, massive out and out tight head prop who scrummages especially. We're now seeing props who've got a bit of a turn of pace. You can operate at the first receiver, for example, and get a pass away. We're seeing loose forwards and locks who've got offload games. We're seeing the continuity improve. So it's interesting to see how our different generations start to bring through different skill sets. And we'll continue sort of seeing that. As long as the flyers can tackle, I don't care about their style. Yeah, look, it's always going to be a bit of a trade-off sometimes. Kessie Van Nadi says, going to be interesting to see how this combination works together. It's probably going to be a kicking game. Trevor might even get a few kicks from handoff. Hey, I'd back Trevor to put in a kicking game. I reckon Trevor can definitely put in a cross kick or two. Man's just got class written all over him. Currently says, I hope Alton gets more game time in these tests. I'm interested to see next weekend's selection. I think that Jacques Nienaber talked about the fact that they've got a plan. It might change, but they've got a plan. And if I'm sitting there thinking which test do I want to try a few new players, it has to be Scotland, doesn't it? And that's not to say that Scotland aren't a good side, because they really, really are. You're not going to experiment against England in that last test. There's too much riding on it. There's too big of a rivalry. There's too much at stake. You know, the World Cup final, lots of bitterness and stuff like that. There's so much riding on that test that we're not going to experiment there. So if there was going to be a match where we're going to rotate it all, then we'll have to do it against Scotland. But yeah, we're going to wrap it up there. Please do smash like on the video and subscribe to the channel as well. If you'd like to support the channel, you can also become a member. There is the pinned comment there as well. We will be live this weekend at this stage. We will be live for hopefully England versus Tonga. Obviously, I'll be with you guys for this game, Springboks versus Wales. Lecanio's going to be back. We haven't seen him for a while, but he'll be taking you through France versus Argentina. He'll probably also be taking you through Australia versus Scotland on Sunday, because I am playing cricket. I'm back on the cricket field. And we're hopefully going to try and do probably the Italian and New Zealand game and stuff like that this weekend as well. So we'll have a full schedule up by the end of the weekend. Until then, we're going to have a video coming out soon about the Rassie Erasmus situation, or the lack thereof situation. Obviously, we'll have the press conference from Jacques Nienaber up in the next hour or two. And then, yeah, we'll go through there. It's all eyes on this weekend. It's great to have the Springboks back. Right now, if you want to watch this weekend, I did a video on it earlier. Amazon Prime is showing the entire Autumn Nations series, all the games. You can sign up for an Amazon Prime account, and you can sign up for a free trial, 30 days, nothing, for zero money. The problem is you can't do it if you're in SA. However, if you use a VPN like ExpressVPN, you can then gain access to this. So if you download ExpressVPN, there's a description and the link in the description. You can sign up for Amazon Prime for a free trial and watch the entire series without having to worry about paying DSTV or anything like that. So it's a really easy way of watching it. It will work. So check that out. All the links that you need for that are in the description. So make sure you get that sorted before the weekend, so that we're not sitting there during the game asking, how can I watch this game? But until then, keep well. See you guys all soon. Nice to be back live. Haven't done one in a while. It's been a very busy time on my side. But thank you for being patient, waiting, and jumping in the comments. And I'll chat to you guys all very, very